it's Rich Tehrani with TMCnet. Thanks for watching. We are in Silicon Valley, and it's Editors Week, where we talk to some of the best and brightest companies in the Santa Clara area, which is where we happen to be. And Greg Gum is with us. He's with Titan Photonics. And Greg, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Rich. Thanks for inviting me again.
Our pleasure. So in case someone didn't see last year's interview, give us an overview. What does your company do?
Sure. We're a technology company based in the Valley, providing optical components and software. And so last year, I think I introduced the concept of software-defined optics. So what we do is we actually have intelligent software that was embedded in the optics to provide certain functionalities to improve the network capabilities of your connection. And what we're now doing is we've actually taken a spin on software-defined networking and virtualized those capabilities in software and firmware that will allow your network to run in an uncongested state to greatly enhance your connectivity for rich media applications.
That's great. That's great. And you brought a device to show us also. Tell us a little bit about that.
I did. Basically, our
software, I guess it was.
Yeah, our
right?
software and firmware will run in any standard white box optic, or particularly that card which I brought as a NIC card, or a network interface card, that would reside in a server, and it has 40 gig connection that then fans out to other servers with some pigtails. But our software and firmware reside inside of that device and can be virtualized across any type of cloud environment to increase the throughput and minimize the latency of your network connection. And what we found is the bottom line is, after talking to a lot of customers, we've been very focused on more and more bandwidth. Right? It's 25 gig, 40 gig, 100 gig, terabit. And now our adage is it's not all about the bandwidth anymore, because now what we have is a technology that allows us to basically fix the congestion that goes across these pipes and give you better throughput, as well as lower the latency, particularly for video-sensitive applications that are sensitive to delay and of course are typically more bandwidth intensive.
So is there any sort of centralized controller for these boards?
Well, the server itself, so these NIC cards would be just like any standard NIC card that would go into, you name it, Dell, HP, white box server. And then basically it has the software loaded in there so that you can orchestrate it through like an Open Daylight. If you're familiar with Open Daylight, is one of the more common platforms that you can interface that's open source. And we work with a number of different controllers that support Open Daylight. So you can use pretty much any standard controller in your environment to spin up the virtual sessions as well as the virtual congestion control.
Now, basically, customers would be anyone who needs just tremendous throughput in their data center, right? So that's a range of kinds of companies, carriers, et cetera.
Yeah, typically what we've seen is content distributed network providers. So anyone who's interested in putting out rich media to large groups of people, whether it be at your PC or also, more importantly, over a mobile environment. So if you're streaming the latest World Series highlights or the latest NFL highlights, typically those are coming from these CDNs. So those are one of the first use cases. We also see that there's an application for operators as well. So both the whole central office reimagined as the data center environment for the telcos like AT&T
Sure.
and Verizon. They actually are now big data centers, and they're embracing software-defined networking. But also many of the MSOs, things like Comcast and Cablevision, for example, are interested in distributing large amounts of video.
So that's great. What's next for the company?
I think one of the things we're going to do is, now that we're moving more into pure software, is you'll see us change from, our name has been Titan Photonics, but obviously that doesn't necessarily fit well with what we're now doing in the software world. So look to see a face change probably next year.
Titan Networks. I like that. Titan Software and Networks.
So we'll quiz you and ask you to give us some input.
Yeah, I'll give you some free advice if you're
there we
interested.
go.
Free consulting.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, look to see a facelift as we start to go more public with our
Okay,
products.
I'm excited to hear, and we'll look out for that. Is there anything we left out?
I think the things I would leave you with is that bandwidth isn't everything, and that it's great to always have a lot of it, but unfortunately it's not always available. So you always want to maximize the most of what you have, and that's one thing that we do with our congestion control software. And I guess the second thing I'd leave you with is the world has become virtualized. It isn't virtual cabs or virtual, purchasing or whatever, virtual assistant. Everything has become virtualized. So by now, virtualizing that software capability and putting it into cloud networks and CDNs, you can use it when you need it. You can use it as you need it, and you're not tied to the vestiges of what we used to know in the networking world, where you have to have specific hardware types and end-to-end connectivity, and having a big iron, for example. You can actually now run that with performance within a software environment.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.